The University of Cambridge has announced the Professor of Pharmaceutical Nanoscience, Ijeoma Uchegbu, a Nigerian-British Professor of Pharmacy at University College London, as the seventh president of one of its 31 colleges. This was made known in a statement titled, "Wolfson elects Professor Ijeoma Uchegbu as the college's 7th president" on the university's website. Uchegbu, who will succeed the current president, Professor Jane Clark, on October 1, 2024, is known for her groundbreaking work in nanoparticle drug delivery. The Nigerian professor currently lectures at University College London, where she holds the position of Pro-Vice Provost for Africa and the Middle East.
The motion is this House believes that science alone can never answer our biggest questions. The word belief is important. But you know what? The only way the world does advance and the only way the world answers its biggest questions is by using facts. And if you want to use facts, you have to then apply what is known as the scientific methods. You have to collect data, you have to analyze the data, and then you have to draw a conclusion. We cannot have a world which is governed by what we all individually believe. So I would say that facts are forever, but beliefs have a limited life. Science has also discovered technologies to mitigate the effects of global warming. So are you really worried about morality or frying? Which one are you more worried about? I think a bigger question is, will my grandchildren fry on this earth? And you may be 20, but you will have grandchildren. I've got them. I was once like you, and I've got grandchildren, so will you. So I will say to you that science and the scientific method is the only way to answer what are our biggest questions. We've done it in the past. We've proved it works, and we will continue to do it. And the fact that there are still some questions that elude us does not mean that science alone cannot answer the biggest questions. If you do not rely on science, then you rely on belief, religion, magic. None of these are going to actually advance your quality of life. And I know, because you're all at Oxford, that you value your quality of life. So I say to you, vote against this proposition and show you don't believe in magic.
Joining us now is Professor Ijeoma Uchegbu, the 7th Cambridge University president. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us, Professor Uchegbu.
Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent.
Amazing.
It was brilliant watching your debate. I believe that was debate at Oxford University. And it was excellent to see you present your points, and I could see you smile as we came on, on air, and just looking at yourself. I don't know how long ago that was or how close that was. Well, first of all, congratulations. We're very proud, not just, in the studio, but as Nigerians, very proud of you and the work that you've done so far. And so the first question...
Oh, thank you so much.
Excellent. The first question I'd like to ask is, what is the significance of this new level, this new appointment that you've attained, especially in your professional career, for you as a person, and of course, beyond just being a British national, from your Nigerian roots as well? What's the significance of this?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working in this field for about 30 years. So for me, after a life in science and many discoveries, and we have some medicines that we are making based on the technology that we've discovered. And then having this leadership position, it really does give me an opportunity to give back, because science has been very, very good to me. And academia has been very good to me. And I feel that now is the time to give something back, because many people were very kind to me when I was going up. And I'd like to create an environment where other people can thrive as well.
Right. Goodness me. I'm just smiling over here. Like, I feel peacock proud being a Nigerian this morning. And I'm like, yes, we've done it again. That's what we always do. We always smash the glass ceiling, as Nigerians, and congratulations to you. But
thank you.
Let's talk about your life before now. schooling in Nigeria, the educational system then, and what it is now. I mean, tell us about your university days in Nigeria, your studying days, your postgrad days in Nigeria, being a scientist in Nigeria, and juxtapose that with the standard now. What can we do to move forward?
Yeah, so I came to Nigeria as a teenager. I'd never been to Nigeria before. I arrived as a teenager in the 1970s. And we went to live in Owerri. As you know, it was about 3 years out of a brutal civil war. So moving from Hackney in East London to Owerri in Nigeria, for me, was quite a huge difference. But I quickly settled down. I went to secondary school in Nigeria, completed secondary school, and then went to University of Benin. And I can tell you that I thoroughly enjoyed being at the University of Benin. I made some friendships there that I still have. I enjoyed studying very, very much. I had great lecturers. It was a dream. And then after that, I went to the University of Lagos and did a master's degree while also being a member of staff. And those were really nice days in the very early 80s. We had a laboratory full of equipment. We had students that were really, really motivated to learn. So it was a really supportive environment for me. And one of the things I say about going to Nigeria as a teenager was the visibility of role models, which allowed me to aspire to do a little bit more than I was aspiring to do when I was living in London. So for me, that was the big thing, the big difference. So although I came to an area where there was an infrastructure blight after the Civil War, I still maintain that it was crucial for my development for me to see people like me in positions of authority. So I had a great time. I haven't really been back to Nigeria to work, so I don't really know what it's like now. But I suspect it's very different from it was then.
All right, thank you. Beyond being praised for attaining or being appointed as president, we also must talk about your contributions to science, especially in the area of pharmaceutical nanoscience. Your contributions to science in the area of pain relief, medicine. I'd like you to share with us perhaps one of your proudest moments in this area, and especially beyond that, the fact that you are an icon for other younger girls to aim or to aspire to also make their mark in STEM. I know there's a big project around that in the UK to encourage more young people to embrace in STEM, and also in particular young girls to embrace STEM. I'd like you to share with us on that particular note.
Yeah, thanks very much. First of all, let's debunk the myths. I'm just a normal person, so hardly in the words that you described, but it's very flattering nevertheless. And talking about proudest moments, it has to be when I became a professor. So I joined the university in 1997. That was the university in Glasgow and Strathclyde. And I actually started my PhD quite late. When I started my PhD, I was 30 years old. So I was quite a mature student. And I was a single parent of 3 young children doing a PhD, which was quite unusual. And when I finished my PhD, I had no belief that I would possibly become a successful academic. And so when I became a professor after 5.5 years, which was quite fast in the UK, I felt really proud then. And actually, when I got the news that my application for promotion had been successful, I burst into tears. I was so moved by that. So that for me was something I was incredibly proud of, that I'd made it in very short order, because I felt I had to really rush and keep up with my peers who were, to be honest, about 6 or 7 years younger than I was. So that for me was something. And then the other thing that I'm proud of course, is our pain medicine, which you allude to. So we are tackling a problem which is quite profound, and that is the problem of severe pain relief. Severe pain relief is accompanied by enormous side effects. If you take one of the very good pain relief medicines, let's say morphine or fentanyl, You have a very high chance of developing constipation. Most people that have taken those drugs will tell you that they develop constipation. That's troublesome. But the thing is that in the United States, we have 100,000 people dying every year from using these pain medicines. A lot of it associated with the fact that they're highly addictive, habit forming. So you do get the addiction, and then you get the consequences. And the deaths, of course, don't even talk about the social consequences of addiction. So what we've done is we've taken a compound which is in everybody's brain, and we've tried to make that into a medicine. And that's what we're developing. We all have it in our brain, but what we've done using our technology is make it druggable. And so that you can take this medicine without having the addiction, but it works in the same way as morphine. And that's being developed now by a company in the United States in collaboration with the National Institutes of Health, which is the US arm of government that supports research. So we're very proud of the fact that we're able to out-license that drug to a company in the States, a NASDAQ-listed company. We're very proud of the fact that that company then got a huge grant from the National Institutes of Health to develop this medicine. And it should be going into the clinic in about a year and a half. So that, of course, is an area to be, which we're incredibly proud of. But I must state, I didn't do this on my own. I haven't actually done an experiment with my own hands for at least the better part of a decade. This is teamwork, and it's important to state that.
Let's talk about the role nanomedicine will likely play in solving various health challenges in the future. I mean, we just came out of a pandemic, which had some element of, a quick resolution because of the effect of nanomedicine, and obviously science reigned supreme. Let's talk about that role. And also, for developing continents like Africa, the role of nanomedicine in treating, various ailments, high blood pressure, diabetes, which is very rampant. That's one. Secondly, I was really inspired when you say you were a mother of three, a single mother of three, when you went ahead to do your PhD. I know that's really a grueling one. For family people listening out there, can they take some lessons from you of how you kept on living your dream and you were still being a great mother?
Okay, so we'll take the first one first and focus on nanomedicine. Then I'll talk a little bit about the family issues. And just to say, now I have 4 daughters, wow. 4 daughters and 4 grandchildren. So I went on to then have another daughter when I was an academic. So nanomedicine and the pandemic. I mean, to be honest, nanomedicine took center stage when it came to develop pandemic vaccines. These pandemic vaccines that we've all taken are based on a piece of DNA or a piece of nucleic acid. So they're not based on proteins. Normally vaccines are based on proteins or a form of the bug which has been made less dangerous. In this case, with these new pandemic vaccines, COVID-19 vaccines, they're actually based on a piece of nucleic acid. That nucleic acid then goes into our body and makes the protein. And the protein then allows us to make antibodies against the virus. The important thing here is that you cannot give the gene or ribonucleic acid on its own. It will be completely destroyed. So it has to be wrapped up in a nanoparticle. And so actually all the vaccines we've taken, if we've taken the Pfizer vaccine, the Moderna vaccine, we would have had nanoparticles injected into our arm. And these nanoparticles contain a little bit of genetic material, which then goes on to make the protein, which then allows our bodies to make antibodies. So when we see the virus again, our antibodies go ahead and kill the virus. So that was a huge moment for nanomedicine, that allowed it to go into the mainstream. But what it also allowed, it allowed people to see the power of nanotechnology in medicine. And now you have a lot of companies making similar, using the same concept to make new drugs. So you'll see more of these nanomedicines coming out in the next 5 to 10 years, all based on the learning from the pandemic. And the learning from the pandemic is huge. It took 10 months from the sequence of the viral DNA to the first vaccine Huge achievement, never been done before. That process normally takes a decade. In this case, it took 10 months because of the urgency. So very huge contribution nanomedicine made. And then you talk about the family issue. Of course, it was difficult being a single mother of 3 children, but also I had some extended family around me, who would sometimes help with the childcare. I had my sister helping with the childcare. I had my brother helping with the childcare, and I was single for about maybe 6 years, and then I married again, and happily married now. So my husband also helps very much with the childcare as well. So it was hard. We were very poor. We didn't have any money. We really had to scrape by and try and get by with the little student stipend that I had. But the key thing is that I thoroughly enjoyed being a scientist. I loved going to the lab. I loved doing my experiments. And actually, the fact that you're a single parent means that when your experiments don't go so well in the lab, you've got something else to worry about. You're worrying about buying your children new shoes, cooking them dinner that night. And so because you have 2 forms of stress, they kind of cancel each other out. I know that sounds quite trite, but that's how I managed my life.
Everyone has a coping mechanism, and it's great to hear that. At the end of the day, it's what works for you, so that's brilliant. 2 questions really quickly. The first one is with regards to the fact that you, at some point in an earlier interview, you talked about the difficulties with conducting research during your time in Nigeria as a student, and how it was a bit easier, perhaps when you went to the UK. And if there's any possibility of you paying it forward or giving back, and any collaborations to strengthen research in Nigerian universities so that other people wouldn't have to go through what you did when you were a student back here in Nigeria. And then the second part would also be to talk about your interest in equality and diversity. Beyond pharmaceutical nanoscience, you've also been quite a champion of equality and diversity, sitting on a number of boards to champion this in your role. I'd like you to speak to that a little, and how much improvement or perhaps how much work has been done, and if it's better than when you started in terms of equality and diversity in the UK.
Fabulous. So you're absolutely right. I mean, after doing my master's degree, I did hit an infrastructure wall, and I realized that I had to move away if I wanted to advance my career. I've had many scholars from Nigerian universities come into my lab and work, and I've kept in contact with them. They've written papers based on the work they've done in our laboratory, and some of them have gone on to have, really nice positions in different parts of the world, all over the world, actually. And so, but simply because I really like working with young people, and I like sort of mentoring young people, I've been able to do that with many Nigerian scholars. I won't mention them all here and embarrass them, but there are quite a few of them. And then you talk about equality, diversity, and inclusion. I'm completely passionate about this. If you don't live in the West, you probably do not know that there are lots and lots of biases that keep certain people away from various opportunities. I took a very different approach to most of my contemporaries, in that I said to people when I became the Provost Envoy for Race Equality at UCL that this equality and diversity and inclusion agenda is critical for our business. If we want to make sure that we are adding value to all of our students, we have to make sure that we are race blind. And this particular message really resonated. Then you talk about the successes we had. We had huge successes when I was working. I worked in this role for about 5 years. We had a higher number of Black, Asian and minority ethnic people getting to senior roles in our university. That number went up considerably. We also had a narrowing of the awarding gap. There is an awarding gap in the UK higher education system, whereas if you're from an ethnic minority background, you're less likely to get a good degree. We had that completely narrowed. And actually, when COVID came, that awarding gap was obliterated in our university. But something I'm incredibly proud of, and which I really initiated and spearheaded and went through many sleepless nights to achieve, is that we got rid of the names of eugenicists. from our campus. We had the names of eugenicists. We had these eugenicists from the early part of the 20th century actually celebrated in our campus by certain rooms and buildings being named after them. We went through a 15-month review and inquiry that was led by Professor Ijeoma Solanke from the University of Leeds, an external person to UCL, and we got to the conclusion, we didn't start out with that conclusion that we had to get rid of the names of eugenicists. The day those names were removed and replaced by simple numbers was one of the happiest days in my life. And I say that because I had my own daughter went to UCL, and I thought, how would she feel if she walked into a room named after a eugenicist that actually said that certain people were inferior and had to sit her exams in that room? That single thing powered me on, and we ended up getting rid of the names of eugenicists. I'm incredibly proud of that.
That's excellent.
I mean, really great stuff. So, I mean, the first question I asked before was, one of the questions I asked was, how can we use, nanoscience to treatment of most of these ailments of the African continent? Take, for instance, the battle against malaria, the battle against high blood pressure, diabetes, and cancer. And also, I'm just now going to segue into the college you are the president of in Cambridge, Wolfson College, that has a very strong alumnus that you know of, Dr. Chris Whitty, what would be your idea on what would you be giving back to that college? It's one of the younger colleges in Cambridge, not like old as the likes of the Christchurch colleges and other colleges in Cambridge. What would you be giving to that college, and what would you be, focusing on as regards that strong alumni base? I mean, because Professor Whitty did a lot of work, pretty much manage COVID-19 response for the UK.
Yeah, I mean, this is excellent. So let me talk about the contribution of nanomedicine, first of all, to some really awful diseases. So I'm also a trustee of the Wellcome. The Wellcome is the world's largest biomedical research charity. We have an endowment of about £35 billion, and we're looking to spend £16 billion over the next 10 years. And so I'm a trustee of that organization, and one thing that we are spending a lot of money on is a new TB vaccine. TB is a growing problem. The vaccine that currently is used is not effective, and we are spending a lot of money on developing a new TB vaccine. And this new TB vaccine will use a form of nanotechnology. So it will use a form of small particulates in its actual action. So this, of course, will have a huge contribution, reduce the deaths due to tuberculosis, and reduce the deaths globally, but really reduce the deaths where tuberculosis is growing, and a lot of that is on the African continent. So this is going to be huge. If the clinical trial works, where we're spending a lot of money, this could be a huge contribution. The other question you ask is about Wolfson and the alumni, and going there as president, the seventh president of Wolfson, I will simply try and do my best. We will be training leaders at Cambridge. We all believe that we are training leaders. These are highly motivated students who have jumped through considerable hoops to get to the college. And it is our goal to make sure that we add value to each and every student that passes through Wolfson. And these students come from all over the world. They're not just coming from the UK, they come from all over the world. We want them to go back to different parts of the world and demonstrate their leadership, demonstrate their analytical skills, improve their own communities. And some of them will have a global influence, absolutely no doubt about it. So there will be some budding Chris Whittys within that group who will go on and have a global influence or a national influence. That is our goal. And I hope I'll be able to contribute to the adding of value to these students.
Well, excellent. We look forward to you having a very successful tenure as president of Wolfson College at Cambridge University. And we also look forward to having you come to Nigeria very soon. We definitely would benefit greatly from your rich experience and expertise. Thank you very much, Professor Ijeoma Uchegbu, for speaking to us this morning on The Morning Show.